Hi, welcome to Inside View. I'm Sid Marsh, your host, and with me today is Rich Lundin from the Wandjina Institute, and he's going to tell us all about drones and the future of our forest. Welcome, Rich.
Thank you.
Okay, well, why don't you give us a little bit about your background so we can see if you're qualified here or not?
Well, I've been in the mining industry for 51 years and in archaeology for 35 years, and doing remote sensing with conventional aircraft for about 40 years, and for the mining industry, for government, and for private clients.
Right.
And I have a bachelor's degree in anthropology and geology from Beloit College in Wisconsin, and a master's degree from Northern Arizona University in archaeogeophysics, and I'm working on my doctorate at 71.
Good for you.
At University of Bradford in the UK. And during that time, we've done Wandjina Research Institute, which is the research and development sister organization of Wombat Mining and Exploration Company.
And what exactly is Wombat Mining? I'm just spelling this out for the folks at home here.
Oh, okay. Wombat Mining and Exploration Company, from about 1976 to the present, was retained by major mining companies to do exploration for them when they didn't want to do it themselves. Mm-hmm. Our major clients were Phelps Dodge, Quintana Minerals, etc. And then we also did government projects for the U.S. Bureau of Mines, the Department of Energy, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, And a certain percentage of the profits of Wombat Mining and Exploration went into Wandjina Research Institute. And Wandjina Research Institute used that money in order to do research on new and innovative technologies to benefit the mining industry and archaeology, because I have interests in both.
Okay.
And over the years, Wandjina Research Institute has done by itself over 1,000 projects, and Wombat Mining and Exploration Company and our other mining company, Rich Ore Mining, did 1,800 projects throughout the Southwest and overseas. And my experience is from as a archaeologist, ranger at Wilson's Promontory National Park in Australia, all the way over to doing work on a confidential project over in Saudi Arabia.
You have quite the background.
But
now, okay, I understand the whole geology and archaeology thing, but now, what about the drones in our forest?
The drones were a natural adjunct and result of doing exploration with airborne remote sensing, aerial photos, aerial imagery, etc., etc. And then we looked into a project almost 25 years ago now, of mounting on drones geophysical equipment that could fly around. And these were on essentially Piper Cub aircraft that had primitive. They could be flown from the ground, type of thing. They had the sticks and all that.
Okay.
It was
so
really,
they were unmanned airplanes.
Unmanned airplanes.
Yeah, right.
But they would drag a magnetometer or a electromagnetic sensor.
And this would sense ore deposits or that sort of thing?
Yeah. And we thought, well, maybe this will make you warn. And I was very gifted to have the advice of a world-class geophysicist when I was working on a master's degree at University of Arizona, and Mr. Walter Heinrichs. And he said, wow, you can use these aircraft, you can use the little kite things called drones, and they'll come one day. Well, Walt was right. And then in 2012, we became interested in how to use the drones that were being used by the military.
Right. You don't have to reinvent the drone. It's already been invented for you. You have a use for it.
That's correct.
Right.
And the drones that were being used or developed for the military were able to mount sensors on them. They weren't the little plastic drones that fly around. They were the small aircraft. And they were with piston engines and this type of thing, but they were quite serviceable and quite portable. And matter of fact, a few of the really small military drones are put in the backpack.
Okay.
And they have tremendous capabilities. And with the advances in optics and sensors, especially infrared, especially radiometric sensors that would detect radioactivity, sensors that could look down with LiDAR, and that LiDAR was devised by the military many, many years before it was used to find archaeological sites in various places. We then saw that these drones had this sort of capability. And so we started to do a project, and are we to a point?
You have some pictures you brought, right?
Yes, I brought
of these drones you're talking about. So
yes.
Rather than try to describe them, let's show them.
Yeah, let's see the first picture.
Okay. Here you go.
Ah, that is the Shadow. And that's one of the first ones we looked at. And the Shadow was able to be used by the U.S. military for reconnaissance and spot enemy forces, both mechanical and individual troops.
So this could spot forest fires, or how would you use this in the forest?
We would use it in the forest, and it has been used in other countries because these things are widely spread out now. And the Shadow would be used to map where the fires were when other aircraft couldn't fly at night.
Oh, okay.
And that's one of the neat things about drones is with their capabilities, they can fly at night and do lots of different things.
And they're not risking a human pilot.
That's great. And they're not. And they, as we'll see a little bit later on, some drones are able to distinguish people where they are, and with GPS coordinates of those people, avoid them. And yet there's a fire right next to them.
Okay. So you have another picture here now?
Yes, we have another.
Okay. Well, what other capabilities can drones do for the forest? I mean, we'll just discuss this while they're getting their picture together.
Well, they can map vegetation. They can
through infrared, that sort of thing.
Yes, with infrared they can.
Oh, here we go. Now we have another one.
And here is.
Boy, that looks more than a drone.
Well, what that is how the military and the government agencies have been fighting forest fires for years. This C-130 is...
So that drops fire retardant, basically.
It drops fire retardant, and it has a whole chemical system inside of its bay, and it can drop a lot of it. But the C-130s are expensive to run, and if they go down, there's some people dead.
Right.
And the retardant on board a C-130 is about 2,100 gallons, which is about enough to drop on. But in some cases, off a C-130, this retardant has gotten in the way of the forest fighters and dropped in the wrong spot.
They're not as precise.
They're not as precise.
Right. So
next slide.
Let's see if we can get another slide here. So the idea is to have the drones, small drones, do the same job as the C-130s. And it might take 10 drones, but it'll be more precise. That sort of thing.
The twin-engine aircraft that drop drones now. Here's a picture from a drone of a fire in the Los Angeles area. And at that time, the drone units at March Air Force Base were sent down there just to map and show where the fire was and where it was going, that sort of thing. And they compiled very accurate maps. But they were not mandated to drop anything.
Right, they were just reporting.
They were just reporting. And this is what happened over here with the MQ-1 Predator when it was used on the rimfire, and I know that very well.
It was used on the rimfire. I didn't realize that drones were used on the rimfire.
Right, and we're very much aware of that because the rimfire came within a quarter of a mile of our house in Twin Heart, and
so they were using that to map the fire.
They were using it to map the fire, and
Similar to this.
And just like this. Next one, please.
But there was no other use of a drone on the rimfire, just the mapping. They didn't drop anything.
No, they didn't drop anything.
Has a drone dropped anything yet?
In Montana, drones have dropped on experimental fires.
Oh, okay.
But that project is closely guarded. Now here's a C-130 again, dropping retardant, and the one thing about it is that this is in Arizona, and this was the Arizona National Guard, and the C-130 there was trying to drop retardant in an area that were 19 firefighters, but it couldn't get there fast enough. And those are the 19 firefighters that died.
Oh, I remember that story, yes.
Right, and so in this case, the drone were there, or the aircraft were there, not the drones were there. The aircraft was there, but the thing about it was it had such a long cycle time from Davis-Monthan or Luke Air Force Base. And so they were only able to drop retardant on an intermittent basis.
Because they would need like longer runways than a drone would and that sort of thing?
That's correct.
So, yeah.
Next slide, please.
So now we're getting to how the drones can replace the C-130s.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's your thought.
Well, the thought is this, that we have this is the Reaper.
Uh-huh.
And the Reaper is a very advanced drone. And the very advanced drone means it's very lethal. And it can, in wing pods and internal storage, carry over a ton of munitions. Well, if it can carry a ton of munitions and 850 pounds of munitions inside, it can carry 850 pounds of water.
Of retardant.
Yeah. And it can do it exactly at night, because this aircraft can kill a person that's coming out of a house in Afghanistan, and as he goes into a car and not even damage the people in the house.
Okay, very precise.
Very precise.
And it could do that same thing with retardant.
It can do that same thing.
One thing's a missile, the other thing's dropping a bomb.
Well, they also carry bombs too.
Okay.
And so anyway, that's what we want to try and avoid. Is here fire has gotten out of control and has caused a helicopter that was which was dropping retardant to go into a unsafe situation.
Right.
And so, with the advent of precision dropping of retardant by drones at night, when the aircraft can't fly.
Now, why do you keep stressing at night? I mean, because the aircraft can't. I mean, is it better to fight a fire at night or during
at night the fire is
the inversion layer and all that kind of thing?
The fire goes to sleep.
Right.
But when it's asleep, you kill it in its sleep.
Okay.
And also, your firefighters have retreated to safe areas. And you know exactly where they are because they have GPS coordinates. And the GPS coordinates go into the same system as the drone has, and it can tell firefighter, hot spot next to firefighter coming this way. And I was told that on the Donnell fire, that just was here.
Right.
They thought it went down for the night, and then some winds came through the canyon and spread it up. And historic structures and cabins were destroyed, and you don't need to have it. And that's our one we started with.
Okay.
That's our shadow.
So your thought is, why not use the existing hardware, the existing drones, but modify them to drop retardant rather than dropping bombs?
That's exactly correct.
And they can be much more precise than the big C-130 bombers, that sort of thing.
Right. And recently on the Ferguson fire, a DC-10 dropped retardant. It hit a tree. The tree came down and killed somebody.
Oh, okay.
And so...
Can retardant kill a firefighter? I mean...
No, the retardant didn't kill the firefighter.
I know,
the tree did.
But I'm just wondering, is there a danger just if retardant is dropped on somebody, is that going to hurt them?
Well,
or
they
is it
probably knocked him
caustic,
right down to the ground.
Just the sheer weight.
Right.
Yeah.
And with the system that my partner, who was an ex-Rocketdyne scientist, came up with, that we would use milk bottles.
Okay. Sounds scientific.
Plastic milk bottles that are biodegradable.
Right.
Had a mixture in them, not mixture, but a suspension of two components, a blasting cap on the top, and a milk bottle with the retardant in it or water in it weighs about 3 pounds. We've all had them.
Right.
And these are biodegradable milk bottles that are used throughout the United States, and they break down. They're made out of starch, essentially, a starch plastic. They would come down in a mass. They would be secured inside the drone with a net arrangement that could just be unhooked, and down she goes. And there's no human person on that drone. It just a signal drops the hook.
So basically, you're carpet bombing a fire.
You're carpet bombing a fire, and we hadn't gotten to the point that we were actually going to be able to test this when our project was terminated we left the innovation lab. And so we're looking for parties that would be interested in supporting us to move this thing forward.
So you're kind of in suspended animation right now in this whole project.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
We tested the milk jugs with the retardant and a blasting cap on top that was either barometrically or heat sensitive, and an area approximately 50 feet in all direction with a dye in it was covered by one milk jug.
So
you have 100 of them.
You need the blasting cap. You can't just drop the milk carton on the fire.
No, you don't want to do that.
You want to explode it over the fire, let it drop on the fire.
That's correct, because the blasting cap makes the two components of the retardant come together. Because each component is inert.
Oh, so they're not good until they're mixed, and the explosion mixes them.
Mixes them and blows them out.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so that's what we think will work, but we need to do some more work on it. And I have been busy with one of my mining companies until last June, and now we've got some people that are interested in working with us to.
I would think the Forest Service would applaud your efforts and really try to figure out if it works or not.
Well, the business when we first started working on this, we found out that the FCC was definitely against it because, as they said, if you fly drones in the forest, your planes can't fly.
Right.
But now they have gotten to the point on the control of drones, military ones, and we're not talking about little plastic things.
It's not a mom and pop kind of thing or a kid playing with his drone. It's professional.
Right. These are the Reaper is about I think it's about $8 million drone, so it's not cheap. And I think that the Predators and the Gray Eagles came in at about $6 million. So they're not. The government just bought a few of them at a time. Now you see them on aircraft carriers. You see them with all over the place and doing everything. And pretty soon you'll see drones fully armed fighting aircraft.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Air-to-air.
Okay.
Because they have Stinger missiles on board.
They've talked about this, right?
Yeah, and they have, and they'll be supporting the Marine Corps going in as instead of the Marine Corps aircraft coming in and risking a pilot over a combat zone. These things will lay down carpet bombs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The devastation that can be done by drones is just amazing. The Reaper is just a Grim Reaper.
But you want to use it for benign purposes.
We want to use it for, we want
now,
to.
It's interesting. You mentioned that when drones fly, aircraft can't go up and that sort of thing. So at some point, the Forest Service has to say, we're going to use drones and not let the C-30s, 130s
No. When the planes can't fly,
the drones can.
the drones can.
Like you're saying at night.
At night or in bad
weather, right.
And they can see through it all. And they can drop precision drops of retardant right on the spot, just like they can use the same instrumentation to kill a bad guy.
What do you think your biggest stumbling block is, though, to convince these people that you got a viable alternative?
Well, this biggest stumbling block is for us to get a DARPA grant. And then we've got to prove via DARPA grant that the delivery system that we have and the retardant in milk bottles, which isn't high tech at all. These are not $400 milk bottles. These are 29-cent milk bottles and recycled.
Good recycling.
And there's no, this is not super high tech, but if it works, it works. And number two, these can be based out of local airports that have a 30-minute back and forth time to fires. For example, here in San Andreas, here at the airport, you could be fighting fires up here, and out of not Copperopolis, out of Colombia, you could be fighting fires there, and you could have drones cycling back and forth out of both of these to get the job done. And the ones, the Detweiler fire that was down there at Mariposa, they could have been on the fire in 15 minutes, dropping at night when the fire is asleep, and to make sure it's damn dead.
Well, do you think this is something that is going to have to be private industry, or is it going to be the government that's going to say something, or the military, or somebody has to make a decision, it seems like here.
Right. On the one case when Jerry Brown asked for the drones to be used on the rim fire, and when the marching orders went out for the people at March to work on the ones down in the LA Basin, it was politics. And yeah.
But why would it, if it's politics, why would anybody be against it? I don't see the downside of this at all.
Well, the downside of this is this, that the forest fighters that are fighting the fires,
right,
they're out in the field. They may be afraid that the drones would drop this retardant on themselves, and they're not comfortable with the technology enough so that they know that if they're 30 feet away from a fire that's coming their way, that a drone will get that fire and put it out.
And know the difference. The 30-foot difference, right.
Right.
Do you think they're also afraid of being replaced?
Well, I don't
think of all those firefighters. The drones come in and can carpet bomb the fire. There goes their jobs.
No. There will always be a place for the firefighters, because now after the fire is put out, as we found on the rim fire and various other fires, the Butte fire, etc., there are fires that are still there.
Right. They have to mop up and
clean up.
Right.
And in the case of the Butte fire, they had to deal with toxic waste and everything else like that.
Right.
Now, our biggest problem here in the Mother Lode is this. It's not the forest fires in the forests is the problem. It's that the urban interface has come in and on old mining claims right into forested areas. And these old mining claims have been turned into housing developments. This is just what it was up there, Jesus Maria. And each of those houses has a propane tank.
Yes.
And if a fire gets to a propane tank and the vent system doesn't work properly, it explodes. And the fire goes everywhere. And the shrapnel goes in a lot of directions and could kill firefighters. So we have to keep, I'm a real strong advocate of it. I live in Confidence, which is an old mining camp just outside of Twainhart, that we have to keep the fire outside of
the interface.
The interface, and keep away from the houses. Because that also will bring the cost of putting the fire down tremendously. And has less risk to our firefighters who don't.
They can stay back from the propane tanks and that sort of thing, and the drones can come in and protect that.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So that's what we do. And Wandjina Research Institute, that's one of our many projects. And we have projects from looking at trying to find some lost ships in Jamaica, to work at Cape Canaveral trying to find remnants of a lost French colony there.
This is all using drones?
No, this is not using drones. This is what we do.
Oh, this is okay.
This
drones
is on the ground.
Just one of your tools. That's
one of our tools that we use. And we use instruments that can look through the ground and determine what the chemical signature of the ground. It looks like a hairdryer. It's called a portable XRF unit, X-ray fluorescence unit. And you can just put it on the ground and click it, and you can tell you what the minerals are, or the elements are right below you, in plants, soils, rocks, ores, whatever.
Really? And you've developed that tool?
Well,
your company?
we didn't develop that tool.
But you developed a use for it.
We developed the use for it in archaeology. We developed it. It's been around for almost 25 years, and I first used it in geology, and then in 2005, we knew that this technology had come to a portable state rather than a whole bunch of things on a table.
Right.
And said that it can be used in archaeology. And now there's 13 companies making them around the world used for archaeology. And the last conference, there were 65 papers by young archaeologists about using them. So we feel pretty proud of that.
Well, Rich, you have told us a lot about drones and about archaeology and the different tools you use. We really appreciate you being here today.
Well, thank you very much.
I'm Sid Marsh, and we'll see you next time on Inside View.